Good morning to you all. I'm very glad to see there's so many people in the room. I'm going to give you a presentation about custom fields for Joomla. My name is Mark Boudins. But I'll start off with taking a picture of you because this is starting to be kind of a tradition that I have to send proof to my kids that there's actually people willing to voluntarily listen to me. So that makes for a good piece of proof. So, my name is Mark Boudins. You can tweet me at mdings. I'm the project manager for Joomla 4, upcoming edition, and I'm the CTO of Superior Group. And I'm going to be talking to you about the custom fields comment. Well, custom fields, maybe we haven't decided on the real name yet, is going to be extended from DB fields. It's going to be contributed to the core by Alan Moritz, a really nice guy from Switzerland. He's part of the Joomla 4 architecture team. And when PLP and all the members saw the code, we thought, yeah, that's really good. It's really taking advantage of what Joomla offers, and it really is a nice way to add stuff. So, in effect, there is no such thing as custom fields for Joomla per se. We aim to be it to be included in Joomla 3.6-ish. It's always very challenging, but it will be based on and it's compatible with DB fields. So there's nothing holding you back in using it when you get home, because you will be able to use it when and just migrate it over or have it handed over when 3.6 comes out. As I said, it's distributed by Digital Complete, Alan Moritz, so he deserves a lot of credit for that. So, what you want from custom fields? What will be the benefits of having custom fields? You may or may not wonder. Well, I think we all face the fact that you create a website and you create articles and they have a certain style to them and for whatever corporate pages and blog posts and look really well when you deliver it, and then the user comes in and then he starts adding content. And in no time it looks like crap, because on odd weeks he'll do it this way, and on even weeks he'll do it the other way, and there's just no consistency to it. And well, possibly he'll continuously call you up and say, I want to add this video, and I know it has to be in the top right corner, but how did we do that again? And then you might say, okay, we've got some documentation for that, but yeah, obviously he doesn't read that, so you end up doing it yourself. And custom fields can help you because they will add custom defined data elements, that's a bit of a broad term, fields to content elements. They, from the get-go, extend users. As we noted, when you create a user, you can add fields to them, like an avatar image, a postal code. Look at some examples. You can extend articles. And you can extend modules, add fields to them. And the nice thing is you can define a custom visualization of those fields. And you can determine where and how they are displayed. On top of that, custom fields is a system plugin, and it will support components that are written to the Joomla standards. I'm not even going to try and elaborate on that, but it will support that. So if a component is compliant, you can add custom fields to that. So for example, if you had whatever, an event something system, and it would be compliant, then you'd have the custom fields available to you.
So is this a CCK killer?
Yes and no. So I think it will restrict CCKs to what I think they're supposed to be for really complex stuff. This will take care of 90-95% where the CCK is total overkill for what you want to do. yeah, so is it a CCK killer? No, it has its limitations, and you have to, it doesn't have the ease of use of a CCK in some instances. So it will require some of your brain power and technical skills to do stuff. Don't think it's rocket power. So there, CCK comes more into its benefits. So, what do you get when you use DB fields or the joomla custom fields? Well, for once, whatever you add, it's searchable. From the get, you do nothing about that. So anything you enter in your search engine, search in Joomla, you'll find the fields. The content items that have the fields. It's multilingual. And as I said, if an extension behaves, you get it out of the box, but there's a relatively easy way of setting up your own extensions so that they can be extended by custom fields. Well, this is actually beyond the scope of this talk, but just be aware that you can do that. And that's very powerful, because you can do your generic stuff, and then the user can add its stuff or his stuff on the fly, or you can just have you add the stuff that he needs. So, why would you want to use them? Well, you can extend your content in a simple way by adding the fields. You get to display your content consistently and customized. So where you enter a URL or a video image, you can make sure that in the output you let the user define the video, you let the user define the date, the URL, the whatever. And in your output you make sure that it always displays in the same way. So, for example, so you can extend your user profile with whatever, an avatar, country, telephone number. So this is a snapshot of a really nice guy I know. So you have a Joomla media field. So you can upload your image from here and then have it inserted in there. You can have some drop-down list on a country, a birthday, the phone number. So this one would then throw an error message if you add numeric characters to it. So there's the basic Joomla field stuff. So this is something I think we all encounter quite often, where you just want to do that. And there's a number of extensions out there that do that, but yeah, well, if it's in core, then it will be very nice. What it will not do at this moment is do conditional stuff. Say, if I say the country is Netherlands, then I'll just add a field that says eats X amount of stroopwafels a day or something. Just to name something. So that's not what it do. But maybe it will do that in the long term. Another cool thing that we use it for example, is that you can display user fields in an article. So fields that you have attached to the user in an article based on the author. So in this case, from our own website, when Ruth has written an article, you've attached your image to a profile. So then in the article, we can automatically display the image of the author. Well, just let your imagination run wild what you can do by mixing and matching that, but this is a cool thing, we think. So, what's in it for you? Yeah, whatever you like to add. Files, you could attach files to them, giving you an easy or very basic document management system. Because on the article level, you can do all kinds of stuff with ACL to limit it, things like that. You could add, say, a YouTube video just by having a field that says YouTube ID. So that little code after the question mark, that's like 7 or 8 digits. Have the user paste that in, and then your layout, alternate layout, whatever, there, come to that. You can then build on that to create the iframe or whatever other means of display you want to embed the video in the article or in the module or anywhere else. You can add URLs to then link to that image or something. You can even add MySQL code as part of the field to pull out something else from the database and have that displayed. Well, as to the characteristics, the fields at the moment, they're similar to the basic fields from joomla. So we have a media field, and it's, for all intents and purposes, it behaves the same. But at this moment, it's not extended from the standard joomla media field. So we kind of have two fields at the moment. That has technical reasons that should go away when it's integrated. And so it's at the moment still a bit difficult to add your own fields. Once we integrate it truly into core, you may or may not know, but then you can add your own field types to Joomla relatively easily, and then they also should be available from within PP fields. It has well, flexible standard visualization using a backend GUI. So there's basically three ways of visualizing. We'll come back to that. But that will be easy, but it's limited. Or you will do custom visualization using your templating skills. What kind of fields do we have at the moment? Well, it's quite a long list. Calendar, captcha, you can do checkboxes, you can do color, your basic editor thing, email, an image, which is different from the media field, an integer list, media field, an article, reference, radio button, SQL, phone number, text area, time zone, URL, user group, yes, no, DP, calendar. Quite a number of fields, and he's adding to them quite regularly.
What's the difference between calendar and DP calendar? I know what DP calendar is.
Yeah, so calendar would be just a date. I think it's with a date picker.
Okay.
What's DP calendar then?
Well, get on. The guy that made it has his own company called Digital Peak. So DP Fields is the thing he's contributing. But I think what he's most known for is his woodworking calendar extension that interfaces with the Google Calendar, has his own calendar management stuff.
Okay.
DP Calendar. So as for the installation, it's very basic. While it's not in Joomla Core, just get it from joomla.digitalpeak.com, download DP Fields. It's a basic system plugin and an editor plugin, so should be relatively easy to install. What you then get is a number of options that you should be aware of. So here you see supported context. So as I mentioned already, we have support for basic context, article, categories, and forms. Well, I just named articles. We do the users and modules. So if you don't want to confuse your user and don't want him to add stuff to modules, you can just delete the line here. Then the fields will not show in that piece of content. Same way you can add additional components or extensions there, and then if they comply, it will show the options to add fields there. An option to set the display, so where to render the content. Yeah. So default, if you don't want to go into templating, there is 3 places where you can have the content displayed. After the title, so you could add an author or an image or something after the title, any text you want. You could have it displayed before the content. So if it's an article, it's just on top of the article text, or below after the content. And then gives you already some flexibility. Well, real power comes when you go into your own templating stuff. I can't read these slides from here, so that's pretty good. And what you then get is this. So if you look at the users, you get 2 extra items fields and field categories.
Why are they at the top of the list?
I have no clue. But they have to be, maybe it's alphabetical, I have no clue.
No.
No, the F will be just before everything else. So, don't know. It's the fields definitions that actually hold your data. And then we have field categories that you can use to group fields. So don't mistake them for the normal categories. But as you will see later on, you can group your stuff so it's more, you've got more oversight. Fields are displayed sequentially. So here you see the tab, which is the field category. In my case, I call it personal. And then it just displays the list of extra fields I added. This is in the back end, and I can change them to my heart's desire. So at the moment there's no conditional fields, so you can't do anything like, okay, if I select the country of the Netherlands, then I'll add the average amount of stroke bottles a week, or other relevant data. So you can have one tab per field category. You will have one tab per field category, so you can have multiple. If multiple fields apply, they will appear in different tabs. The tab is named after the field category, and that will make you help and organize your data. So we fields that we want to display, we've organized them, but when will they be displayed? You don't want everything displayed on any page. So lo and behold, we have two mechanisms. You can select the categories where you want to display, so you can select multiple categories per field, and then you say, okay, I want this displayed on all and on companies, that's in Dutch. Well, this is kind of a strange combination, of course, because it will overlap, but you get the gist that you can select multiple categories where it's to be displayed. If the category is not selected, it will not be displayed. Yes?
Is that part of the article configuration?
Well, this will be in articles or in users or in modules. It will be in all, so you can select it. It's standard joomla, so any item should have a category, and it should have tags, well, we'll come to. And then you can just say, okay, I want this category only, this image only displayed in articles that are referred to biographies, or, well, you make up your mind, or company bio, or something else. Or if you have company information like an address, then you maybe display that in the profile section for the company, per the user, where they are. So multiple categories, not one. And tags, you can do the same thing, so you can have a display when a certain tag is set, which also makes it very powerful in the combination. So with these two elements, you can just about have the content show up, well, anywhere, and be very granular. We know when we want to display them. Now we want to address more detail where to display them. We discussed the basic layout stuff that you can do through the GUI. So again, you can say it's after the title, it's before the content, it's after the content. You can have a single dedicated article where you just insert fields into the article context. Or you can do advanced stuff. Okay, let's just talk about that. So it's a bit difficult to see, but it comes with an XCD plugin. So you press that, you get a list of your fields. You just select the field, and then it's a bit hard to see, but it's better to see visible on the next line. It will insert it. So insert field, better seen. We'll open the list with the fields. and then if you select the field, content date, for example, this is the field ID 9, it will insert this code, mustache, templating stuff. You could also type it by hand if you know it, but this is kind of easier. So you can, it's a field ID, you can display the value or you can display the title. So there's always two attributes to a field. And then you can insert those in your article and create a one of a kind. Might be useful, but yeah, then you still don't have the. It's good for one of a kind. It's not when you want to repeat stuff. Yes.
Do you use those fields in things like the registration emails and so on?
I have no idea. But probably, I don't know how it works, but probably you could set up something that you use them in an article, and then you include the article in the registration email, and then you're all set up. Now, I personally think this is a bit cryptic and difficult to remember. So, in my opinion, if you, and it's a pull request I have to make to the code, because you can, instead of the ID, you can also use the alias, which makes more sense in a number of ways, because of portability. Say you have a piece of code, an article, a layout, and you want to reuse that in a different place or on a typically on a different website. And on that website you create your fields in a slightly different order, or you delete one or add one, and then oops, you go, because the field IDs will not be the same as on the previous site you have. So then you'll start cursing and possibly remember that I told you so in this session, and then go back and using the alias. So alias avatar, and you should have the same thing. So personally I think it should be an option in the editor plugin. But lots of stuff that we can do and build on for something that's not even officially released.
So is that valid at the moment, but it just doesn't work in the editors? Is that what you're saying? Or can you put that in?
Yeah, you can put that in, but it's just that the editor plugin,
okay,
which gives you the easy way to figure out what it is, uses the ID instead of the alias. I already got this in, but yeah, you have to type it in. But once you get the gist of it, this is just as easy as doing it with the editor plugin. As I said, you can use the value or the title or some other attributes. You can read up on the documentation on that. Okay, we've got the fields in. You know when to display them. But yeah, for sure, you'll want the field to display different here than there, right here, there, whatever that may be. So, what can you do? We've got some basic stuff that, it's all joomla stuff, so I'm not going to go into that deep, but you can do your template overrides. So basically in your template overrides, you change the default behavior of your content. It's typically used by, indeed, your templates to change the look and feel. So you could change those. See, there's some Dutch in there. Now, you may or may not know, but the Joomla core actually has a nice system to add template overrides. You can go into the backend, hit on the style button, and then you can see, well, it's actually wider than this, but you can change the appearance of modules, components, all that kind of stuff. And if you click those buttons, then it will create the appropriate files for you. Because it will create you, if you want to do that by hand, you create your files in the templates directory, template name, HTML, etc., etc. So you can do that via the backend. So that's relatively easy. You get a copy of the files, and then you go in and hack your way around changing it. So, but there's another way that works on server content now, that's to add an alternate layout. Anybody not familiar with the term? So, you have a default behavior, and like for an article to display, you can add, let's put it very simple, that same set of files with another prefix. And our default there always prefix with default underscore, and then you could add your own blah blah underscore something, and that would then be the name of that alternate layout. So when you then select how an article is displayed, you can select from the drop down in the article manager that alternate layout, and it will use that. So that allows you to diversify, have multiple ways an article is displayed. So it's a very powerful thing to do. There's no backend GUI for that. So that's a bit of a shame. So I'm considering trying to write a proposal for the Google Summer of Code for that, so that we can have some students in and maybe extend our backend to help us with that. So it's something that you could use in addition to your template overrides. So it can be selected from the content in an article, your menu definition. You select, okay, I want this blog displayed that way. You can also combine it with other stuff, and I particularly find this one very powerful, because if you look at the way that we can style blogs, there's not really a way to style the articles within a blog with an alternate layout, because it's just not supported. Just doesn't work. Now there's this really powerful extension that I would use for that. That's called Articles Anywhere, where you can basically create a blog layout. But the nice thing about that is that you can say articles. Now there's a plethora of ways of selecting your articles, but you could say category this, and then say I want all the articles rendered using this layout. So now and you just put that in a single article and reference that, and all of a sudden you've got a lot of ways of, and easy ways of rendering blog-like layouts or whatever, because you can just use an article to style what a single element should be, and then you're done. Now there's one caveat in that, is that Peter van Westen, Peter, decided we're not going to build in support for that until it's in beta. So you'll have to add a little bit of extra code, we'll come to that later, to have articles anywhere recognize the DP fields. Well, it's not a big deal. So you can have, summarize that, you can blog layouts with article alternate layouts.
Where exactly you type this line?
I would type it just inside an article and display the article.
Inside the article?
Yeah, and the plugin will, the Numbers plugin will render that out.
Sorry, are you saying that that line in one article
Yes.
will affect many articles?
No, I'm saying that that line in one article will can produce a blog-like layout or whatever layout you want based on the number of articles you select here. So you can select random articles, you can select the first 5, the last 5. Well, as I said,
If that article is in the first 5, or if that article is in the category companies,
yeah, then it will be rendered, and it will be rendered using this layout,
Okay, thank you.
and not the default layout. Still everybody with me? The next level of granulation that we have in Joomla is your JLayouts. Who's not familiar with JLayouts? It's not a shame. So JLayouts were introduced some time ago to make sure that, for example, the way pagination shows on the page or the way the title is displayed that used to be like all over the place and would be kind of the same code everywhere. Now JLayout is the next level of abstraction that in your template you can just say JLayout blah 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 title of an image. So you've got one place where all the titles of your site are rendered. You can override that, same way that you can do that with articles. And say, okay, I'll just make it something different. Remember the picture of Ruth where the image was on the left hand side? So you can do that with the title override for the articles. You just pull in the field, put the image to the left, and then everywhere where there's a title for an article, that will be used. Typically you will have your layout. You should have a look, joomla content, and for example you can see all kinds of items. For example, the read more option, the way you read more is displayed on articles. So if you shouldn't edit this, don't do that, no point. Just copy it into the same structure under your template HTML as you do with your overrides, and then by convention Joomla will prefer that file to this file, and then you're home free because you can edit your stuff, add stuff without it being broken on an update. So with me. For the same goes for it, you can have your custom layouts. For example, the title of a blog is blog style default item title. Go figure. It's a bit of go and find it, but then you can just style that in a different way. So now traditionally, for example, it starts like the title of the item. Let's say if you have a directory of companies and you add the company name and the company director and who knows what, then for the blog you can, for that blog you can just display the company name and the director's name and phone number as part of the blog title. Well, what you put there, it's up to you. But you can do many things. So I put some examples. The title, to change the way the pagination looks. If you don't like it, you can change the read more. But you can also do the same thing for the fields. So it's like nested. Now you can go further and further in changing your building blocks because the fields, the form fields are themselves also JLayouts. So, as I said, for the template you would add into templates, template name, HTML, and then copy the file that you want under that structure. Yes?
What kind of output will the fields have in terms of the HTML?
So what you define it to be?
If you're rendering them automatically using the plugin on.
Sorry, at this point the plugin doesn't come into play anymore.
Oh, okay.
This is standard Joomla behavior. The plugin comes into play if you pull in DP fields in the representation of that JLayout. So in the end, it's what you want. Yes.
So how do you call in the template? Say you've gone in and you've done an override. How would you call a specific field inside that?
I'll have some examples.
Okay.
You could even have, I have to let this sink in, different field representations per component. So say you have a avatar field or an image field, you can have a different layout for an article as for a user representation. This is all standard stuff. But you should be aware of that you can actually start looking for it because you might not realize that you can do that. So if you have a field that you can make it red in an article and make it green in a user, not that that's a particularly useful example, but still it's something that you could consider. Or, well, we have all customers, so they'll come up with these silly things to implement anyway. Okay, I'll give you a few code snippets and then we'll have some time to answer. So I have to complement the link because I couldn't find it, so I have to ask Ruth. She's now away. So I'll add that in the final presentation. So say you want to, this example of getting an image into an article, because we figured that out. It wasn't actually that somebody tried before a few weeks back. So, but it's really basic. So you, in this case, you want to get the created user by, or created by, from the user. So you get the user, this item created by, so you get the user ID. Then you have to make that piece of content aware of the DP fields. So you trigger the on-content prepare event for the com users. So be aware, this is the context of the article. So, and go back to the articles anywhere, there you can do the same thing. You can trigger the content of the article. Say com users user, and then get the fields of the user. And in this example, we just loop all the fields until we find the avatar, and then we save it and do something with it later on. So that's all you need to add to a template override, alternate layout, whatever, something. And you've got the article, you've got the field. And then it's up to you what you do with it in your styling. Whatever HTML you put around it, you can do additional stuff. So at this level, you can start doing stuff like, if the country is Holland, oh not Holland, I will not display the number of stroopwafels the guy eats normally. But it's not GUI-like. But yeah, you can do just pretty much what you want. As I mentioned, the use of overrides, of using ID aliases instead of IDs, you can very easily do that with readable. So simply map them once at the beginning of your code. So for each DP fields, I just push the alias as and map it to the ID, so I don't have to remember the ID in my piece of code. Because specifically, if you have IDs, hard-coded IDs in pieces of code that you may want to reuse, well, the ID won't work. But if you standardize yourself on using the alias of an avatar, then you can reuse these snippets of code. And then you can do stuff like this. So the in this case, I have a contact details array. It was an example where I had two sets of contacts details displayed in the same category block. So I decided, okay, I'll put them into it in an array. So one for the header, from the name of the email. I get the DP field, so that's this part. I put in the ID, which is a bit longer because now you put in the alias. I get the label and I get the value of stuff, get the email address, and in this case I just call a layout, JLayout of myself to render that company contact details. So beware that you can do stuff like that so that you don't end up repeating the same piece of styling twice in your template override, because that just doesn't make sense and it will come and bite you in the end. That would pretty much end my presentation. I think I've got 5 minutes for questions, so I think I've timed it rather nicely.
Yep.
Questions taken. I'll start off.
Okay. I've got a series of articles that are events for a local society.
Yeah.
Can I add a date field, which is the significant date of the...
Yes, you can add a date field, you can add a location field for the map, you
Right.
can whatever.
That's the answer I was expecting. Can I sort by that date field rather than by article creation date, article publish date, alphabetically?
Yeah, so if you use something like articles anywhere will allow some sort of sorting, but you could also write your own plugin where you just pull in your own articles and then sort them on the field that you, so load your articles, get all the date fields, sort them in the code the way that you want them, and then output them the way that you want it. So yeah, it will require a bit of coding, but yeah, you can do basically everything.
Do I do a plugin on?
You don't even need to do a plugin. You can do it all in the open layout file.
That's where I do. Okay, thank you. Yep.
Yes? Yes.
Thank you. Joomla currently has the user profile plugin,
Yes.
which is a way of extending your user
Yes.
registration with custom fields.
Yes.
And you can take that plugin and add your custom fields.
Yes.
So how does fit, or how this new GA custom fields thing fit into the user plugin?
It will make it obsolete. Yeah, so that's
And we
a much more
also-
rigid way of doing stuff, because if you want to add fields to there, then you have to add an XML file, and
And we also have a table in the database which is user profile,
Yeah.
which stores all that information. Have you planned a migration for that when this is in place? Or?
no, but I would, because the difficult thing, I don't think it's difficult, but technically to map the database fields, but the problem will be that you don't know upfront how people will call their user fields in their own plugin, because they might not like the names that they have in the user profile plugin, or they might have altered the user profile plugin from the get-go. So I think there will just be a no-go in trying to do that. We might publish some generic way of saying, okay, you have to map, this is the way how you map an existing field, and you can populate the models, but yeah, this is much more powerful than the old one.
Okay, and that's the last one.
Uh,
So, although it will be obsolete, there will be some kind of legacy system in place so that you can keep using your user profile.
Oh, you can keep, this does not conflict with user profiles. I would just, so they can coexist, but you don't have the flexibility with the user profiles as you have with custom fields.
We don't need the user profile table anymore. Then.
Yeah, correct.
That's why the.
Yeah, but I don't think it's installed by default. I think you have to install it. So in fact, it's not really in core. It's more like an example of how you can do stuff, and it's used. No, it's not. No, I'm corrected by.
The table is already in the database,
Okay.
and the plugin is there is disabled because it's more an example, as you say. But the table is in place.
Okay. Yeah.
So this integrate with the Joomla search?
Yes, that's what I said. So any field is searchable automatically. Will be indexed. George?
Okay. How, if this thing makes it into core, does that mean that anything that's currently using DP fields is going to, how are you going to migrate that data?
That will be provided. I don't know, but it will be an automatic procedure to move from DP fields to the core. That's been committed to be done.
And what is about performance? Because you saw in your example that you're loading article, then for article loading user, and then if you're running dispatcher to load all plugins, and possibly the user will have more than one plugin, so it's like a lot of queries and display just one avatar. Have you?
It will depend on what you actually do in these. So no, we've not seen real performance issues. He's using the same mechanism with this DB calendar extension, which is used extensively, and I've not seen any complaints. So last question, because Brian was signaling that I should shut up. There was a question in the back.
We use an extension called fields attach.
Yeah.
And it's obviously not going to be in the Joomla core if this is.
Yeah.
So should I be thinking about migrating from it to this, or should I?
Depends. Fields attach is more GUI-like, has more features to do stuff in a GUI way. So if that's your thing, stick to it. We have so many people have the need for this kind of stuff out of core, and it offers more than fields attached in that way. So yeah, well, you're the one to decide. I'm not going to say you shan't use that. Yeah, then I would suggest look at migrating. Yes, last question.
Are there any plans to release modules, improved modules that can access some of the fields that you've created?
That is supported already.
That's already in there.
Yeah, so it supports modules, fields, and so in a module I can access the field of the currently logged in user or whatever you can think of.
And one last question. Where do you store this information? If you have, let's say, 50 fields, you store it inside the article?
No, it's a separate table.
Separate table?
So, yeah, you just have to look it up. I think it's beyond the scope. Okay, sorry guys, I have to leave it at this because otherwise Brian will kick me in, well, do something.